you've got no money, you can become successful in property. You can deal source, package a deal and you sell it, and that person's going to give you £3,000 for that one deal. And I've got 19-year-olds making 9 bags. I've got 24-year-olds making 20. One of my students, shout out to Valentina. She's about to sell me a 10-bedroom serviced accommodation that's going to make me £35,000 a month. She's made £28,000. She's only been with me for 4 weeks. You can make money and then buy houses. We're not teaching you just to be a deal sourcer. We're teaching you all the strategies so that you can acquire assets.
So ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Forward Motion. This is a series in which we focus on amazing figures that are moving forward in their community. It's Suave Collective, and today I am with the great and gifted Jael Spooner. If you don't know who Jael is, she is an award-winning entrepreneur, property developer and trainer, training many people across the UK on how to get into the property space, how to build and how to do it in a sustainable way. Jael, how are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all good. And I'm pronouncing and saying everything right.
Yes, it was perfect. Thank you
Alright,
for the
cool.
introduction.
Awesome. So this week,
Yes,
how's it been since the beginning of the year?
Do you know what? The beginning of this year's been awesome. It's been really awesome. Like I know everybody doesn't like January, but I find January one of the better months in terms of like planning for the year ahead. Because, you know, the festivities are in, you know, sort of October, November, December.
Christmas and all.
Exactly. Whereas January, I feel like it's a really great, like, strategizing month.
Yeah.
And so I've spent this year so far really focusing on systems. You know, I've done the hustle for a long time, and now I'm like, systemization is 1,000,000% the way.
Right. And that's another question I've got, and that what has that been like for you? Okay, probably systemizing what part of your operation actually?
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, when you run your business, whatever business that is, you've got it in your head so much, right? So much like in your head. And what I've loved is pulling it out of my head and putting it on an A3 piece of paper and putting it up on my wall. So I've identified all of the departments that I have in the business, which is really powerful. And then I've identified all of the social media handles that I want to, you know, be consistent on. And then the funnel system within the business. And then what I've also focused on is what are the different revenue opportunities for the business. So making sure that I understand each point of revenue so that when you do create your funnel system, there's a delegation, whether that's meeting people on the street or, you know, having people come to your seminar or whatever it is, everything gets funneled through in a certain way. And then once we've got that funnel through, we then focus in very much on customer service. So what is the internal experience like within the business? And I think that was the biggest thing for us, is making sure that for everybody that is working, or every client that is within the Wealth Creators mentorship, that they're being seen, they're being navigated, they're being supported on their journey to building wealth. So, and then also like what happens at the end, you know, that was a big thing. What happens at the end of your business? What happens when your tenants leave? What happens when it's finished? Is there an outro? Do you funnel them right back up and go all the way back through your business again? Like it's really mastering and seeing your business as an operating machine. And that's what I've been able to have, like a bird's eye view of all of my businesses, and really think, okay, how can this operate without me having to be operating every single aspect of it?
Yeah. And I've got so many questions on that, but even before I get into that, I just want to kind of wheel up a little bit, from how you even got to the place where you're doing all this systemization right now. So as far as I know, every time I've heard someone talk about property, I always think like it's a long everything takes time, but I always think a long process. I think like old money, like you need to have some type of relative who knows someone that can hook you up with something. But you've done all this in the last like 5 to 6 years.
Yes.
Yeah. So can you kind of maybe give us a snippet of what that was like?
Absolutely.
Like when you started during, was it lockdown or
Yes,
just before?
absolutely.
Around that time, what was that like, and how has it been? I know getting into business is a bit of a roller coaster, but that kind of period of time, where did you start, and where was the switch that you decided, this is what I'm going to go for?
Definitely, definitely. I mean, just to go all the way back, I did start my early life. I think the biggest decision I made was moving out at 16 and moving into hostels.
Oh, wow.
So that was the biggest decision that I've ever made in my life. And when I got my council flat, I did pledge to my mum, I'm going to buy this house.
Right.
So it was an intention that I think I had at a young age. And I believe that intention came from this book that I had discovered, which is called The Secret, which is about the laws of attraction. Now, just to rewind all of that, like, I grew up being dyslexic, so I really couldn't read or write. I didn't really think that I would be able to amount to much when it comes to academic, school education. So my ability to actually truly believe that I could be somebody was very small when it comes to, like, a degree, right? However, what the law of attraction did for me is it made me know that I can be, do, and have anything I want as long as I believe. And I have a big imagination. So I believed. And when I was 18, I said to my mum, I'm going to buy this house. And 10 years later, I did. I think that my love for business came where I couldn't get a degree, and I didn't feel like I was going to get a good job. I also didn't feel like I would get, like, I wanted to go to the best drama school. I didn't get in.
Oh, it was into acting.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Like, those days, right?
RADA,
so RADA, yeah, exactly. I got to, like, the last round. I didn't get in.
Okay.
So those things, I could only work in a bar.
Okay.
I only felt like I was good enough to work in a bar, and to be a waitress. But very quickly I started running bars in the West End. I started being a general manager and running bars full of hundreds of people and managing 40 staff from 22, 23, 24. So for me, these were the foundations to business. I had a lot of personal, experiences seeing other people do big financial, very successful financial people doing great things, and that really got me obsessed with the nitty-gritty detail in business.
Okay, so you've bought your council home.
Yeah.
It's at 10 years in. What are you doing for work at the time when you've acquired that building?
So I was managing. So when I bought my council flat, I was a general manager of my own club at that point. I was a general manager of my own club, Tunnel London in Aldgate. I still have it to this day. So yeah, that's how I was supported in that way. But then lockdown happened and literally they shut my bar. So they shut everything that
Lockdown's crazy.
It was crazy. But also I was a new mum at the time, and my son at the time was only 6 months old, and everything I'd worked for got shut. So at that point I had to dig deep and say, okay, you know what, actually, for the first time I realized actually the difference between sort of a passive income and an active income. That was a real, I thought I was successful. I had the Rolls Royce, I had the expensive penthouse apartments in Canary Wharf, I had all those things. But once lockdown came, I realized I didn't have anything else to rely on. And simultaneously being a new mum, I knew I couldn't really be in the clubs the way that I was before. So I threw myself into property, Okay,
so, all right. So what was the first, so you've got, I guess, your commercial property where you're running the club.
Yeah.
You've got your house. Like, where was the first that you decided you're going to invest in this space, and where was it? What part of London was it?
Yeah. When I decided to invest, I completely moved up north. I decided very quickly that I need to be in a location where my money can go further. So I would say some of the rules, like, to look out for when it comes to property is, you need to specify your intention. Are you looking for long-term gains through capital appreciation? Are you looking for monthly cash flow so that you can become financially free? Are you looking for something that you can add value to and convert and increase its equity? In this case, I wanted all three.
Right, yeah.
But cash flow was one of the most important thing, because I only had the furlough from the government. I didn't have any revenue coming in, like my business, you know what I mean? Like,
and that only lasts so long.
Yeah, and I didn't know what the aftermath was going to be. Like, are they going to ever open my business again? Are people ever going to, I mean, praise be unto God, it's open. But at the time I was like, what if they don't? I've lost everything.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So at that point, I had to dig really deep and say, I need money coming in every month without me having to work, without me having to like go to a job, because my son is 6 months. He's 1. I'm not putting him in nursery.
Okay. Oh, really? Okay.
I'm not going to put him with people I don't know.
Okay, right.
He's
too young.
He was 6 months, 1 year old.
Is there nursery for 6 months? Or
yeah,
no
6 months is the youngest age, and a lot of women have to do that.
No, that's crazy. Huh?
2, 3, fine, but like 6 months, 1, like it was a bit too dramatic for me. Yeah, it was.
Okay.
So I did it with him.
Okay.
You know.
So all right, brilliant. So you've got the first space up north.
Yeah.
You've renovated it, or was it good to go when you bought it?
I mean, I was very much focused on HMO, and I was on a mission to become a millionaire in a year.
Can we just break down what HMO is?
Yeah, sorry guys. Yeah. So a HMO is a house of multiple occupation. So if you've got, for example, let's say you've got a 4-bedroom house, and that 4-bedroom house has 2 reception rooms, right? Now, typically across the UK, you might rent out a 4-bedroom house, let's say up north, for 1,500. Okay, that's fine. But if your mortgage is 1,300, you're not really making any profit. The profit that you're making is just going to go on maintenance anyway. So instead of doing it as one, rented out to one family, you actually take the 4 bedrooms and you take the 2 reception rooms and you make them all bedrooms. Right. So now you've got 6 bedrooms, and you get it licensed, and you're now operating as a HMO. So each room you're renting out individually, and typically you can rent a room out for £500. So if you've got 6 rooms, you're now making £3,000 a month in revenue. This is really powerful, because if your mortgage is £1,300, well, now you're making, instead of £200, you're making £1,700 a month. A lot of people have mixed feelings with HMO. Being somebody that's got a plethora of HMOs, what I get most from my tenants is absolute gratitude for having, because it's so expensive to we can't help the cost of living. Like, that's happened. That's happened.
That's London. Well, that's the UK.
Well, the UK.
I feel like London's feeling it the most, but it's cheaper to live outside the UK. Am I wrong?
Yeah, it is.
It is. Right.
It's cheaper to live outside London, and the quality of life is better. Yeah. That's why I never stayed here in lockdown. I was like, no way am I staying here.
You moved?
I left. I moved all the way out for 2 years.
Okay. And then the property you had here, you rented out?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, brilliant. Yeah. Okay, so you've turned it into... How do you even know what HMO is? How did you know to do that, or to apply that strategy?
It's a great question. One thing that I share so much with my students, or those who, because I do a property masterclass, which is it's basically free. I mean, it's £1, but it's basically free, and I invite people to come down to spend a day to understand all the strategies. So understanding HMO, service accommodation, rent to rent, lease option, deal sourcing, BRR, commercial to resi, in a day for £1, so that they can understand everything. Before anyone makes a decision of whether they want to be mentored by me, because some people say, look, I want you to be my mentor, I want you to get me to financial freedom. Right. I'll say to them this. I say, listen, when you go to school, you're educated for a job. When you go to uni, when you get a degree, when you do your masters, it's typically for a job. Nothing in those curriculums is teaching you actually how to run business. Even business studies is not teaching. How can you learn business from somebody who's employed?
Who doesn't run one?
Exactly. You got to understand it. So a lot of the time when people come, I say the first thing you've done is you've stepped into an environment where you have started to educate yourself.
Yeah.
Right? You started to educate yourself. And that's what I done. Right? I decided I'm going to change my life. And I started to watch the YouTube clips. I started to listen to podcasts. I started to read. I started to go to seminars. I did the most. And I would rub shoulders with such successful people. I went to Nigeria.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
And Nigeria...
How long were you there?
Was for about 18 months.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And Nigeria was the most eye-opening for me.
Okay. How so?
Because one of the weddings that I went to, the bride and groom knew Dangote, and Dangote was just there. Like, if you want to be humbled, go to Nigeria. They're phenomenal people, and they're super bougie. They're, I couldn't believe it. I thought, when you just think you're that girl, and then I went there and I saw the girls and I was like, you really are not that girl. Like, these girls, oh my God, from head to toe, flawless. And it's just wealth in Nigeria is so, I felt for the first time I could see somebody that looked like me.
Okay.
That was... wealthy. I come from sort of, the ends, so I didn't really see that growing up. So that was the most inspiring thing for me, is going to Nigeria and seeing other people that look like me being wealthy. And I think that's what gave me a lot of fire to push myself.
Okay, so that brings me on to my next set of questions, which is mindset. So you've got the mechanics in terms of the strategy you want to apply, but then being around like-minded people or people you can be inspired by and maybe come back with a fresh energy and push forward, I guess it's quite important, right? So if I was to start over today or be starting from square one, like how important is mindset? And how much of a difference does it make if the mechanics are already there? Do I need to believe in myself or believe it's possible? And how much of an impact has it had on you? I know you've alluded to it. You've said, like, the Secret and a few other things. But then when you got into the property space, how did you carry that through? And also, one more thing I've forgotten. You've also got a bit of an interior design background as well. I forgot to add that to the accolades in the beginning. So... yeah, like, how can you walk me through a little bit of that? Like, how after you've got your first property, maybe, I don't know if there was any issues getting it together, but you've done that now. At what point did you go to Nigeria, actually, after the first property? Was that?
So I think Nigeria was just before the first purchase.
Oh, okay.
So it was the kind of the thing that made me buy that council flat. It was like, they're doing it. Why can't I do it? Okay. So I guess that answers some of your mindset questions. Is definitely environment. It was quite strange that you mentioned this today, because I just was filming earlier, and I just came out of, I just knocked on the door of and went into, for the first time in literally 20 years, the hostel that I used to live in.
No way.
Swear down.
Went this week?
Today.
Crazy.
In this outfit, you'll see it when I post. Like, it's in this outfit. Like,
how did it feel?
You can see the boots. Like, it literally was this outfit. No. It was to pull up in your Rolls Royce. Yeah. To go outside the hostel that you were in at 17, guys. I had no money. Right. I had no financial inheritance.
You're young as well. 17.
I was 17. Yeah. I used to eat Pret because they used to bring Prets for us to eat for free.
Oh, okay.
I just said to the lady, I said, I want to come and speak to the kids and tell them that I was in that room. And like, so I say that to say is that I don't care how old you are and what environment you are living in. You can change the trajectory of your entire future. Why? Because I did. Yeah. I don't have any business sitting here and saying what I'm saying and doing what I'm doing from where I started from, the environment that I started from. But mindset has been the absolute anchor to everything. One of the most important thing was also, after I learnt the secret, I was still living very lawlessly. I didn't have any religious beliefs.
Okay.
But when I was 22, I gave my life to Christ.
Wow. Okay.
That he just cleaned me all the way up.
You feel like it made a big difference?
He cleaned me all the way up because I didn't know him.
Okay.
I wasn't raised to know him. So when I got to know him, I really knew him. And when I connected to Christ, the Christ consciousness, to Yeshua, and the beauty, the personality and character that he has, the way that he'll just throw a tantrum, like he'll just throw up a table and just wild out if he needs to. The way he's so straight with people, he's quite borderline rude at times. He will literally just tell you about yourself. You know what I mean? But wise and cares and loves so much that I'm gonna allow myself to die for you. I've never known a love like that. You know what I mean? So I don't know anybody that loves like that. The only person that I see that I could ever love like that for is my own kids. Right. You know what I mean? Sort of thing. So the fact that you would love me that way, regardless of what I know, what I don't know, just the principle of that's what you are saying, how you feel about me. That brought me real love. It brought me virtue. It brought me groundedness. And I think that in the world that I was in, which was a world of sin, it was around a lot of crime, a lot of sinful natures and behaviors and patterns and things that I thought I had to be. I thought I had to fit in to that world by being bad. Right. And when I met Christ and he showed me that I could be good, that really changed everything about everything inside of me. And it allowed for me to walk away from the world. And that was hard to do at 22. And I definitely was going back in and coming out and going back in and coming out. But since I've been on this journey of becoming wealthy, I call it the great fight of faith. Since since 2020 and I've been locked in, I always say to people, if you want to meet God, be an entrepreneur. Like,
yo, that is actually your bar.
It's true.
So it's like,
because if you're 9 to 5, I'm sorry, but your employee is your God.
Right.
But when
you've got that security, right?
You got that security, so you don't need. That's your God. But when you're an entrepreneur, God is exactly where he needs to be, and that's inside of you. And for me, that it's been a great fight of faith. And as I've seen the world and the way the world is changing and the way the veil is being lifted, I'm so glad I'm on this side. I'm so glad I was right. I'm so glad I made the right decision. I'm so glad I chose Christ, because I can see that there is nothing here if you ain't got love and compassion, and if you're not trying to change yourself and be the change that you want to see in the world, what's the point, Yeah,
definitely. So would you say it gave you a sense of direction?
Completely. Right. Completely.
So I guess it changes the narrative when you're walking into rooms. Like you said, certain rooms maybe you didn't feel like you belonged in or whatnot, but you're going in with the kind of knowledge that, you're God's child and you can do these things. And
at the very least, you're loved. And from that perspective, you can operate there. I feel like a lot of the time, especially in the youth, we can get so caught up with what we're seeing externally. We can see what people are wearing, what people are saying. Listen, social media, 95% is fake. People ain't living the life that they're acting like they're living, and that's the reality of it. And actually, you're absolutely beautiful and perfect just the way you are. And you don't need to compare yourself. What you need to do, if anything, is love yourself. It says, love thy neighbour as thy love thyself.
Can I say something on that?
Yes.
Right. All right, cool. So I agree with what you're saying, but I feel like you mentioned social media. I feel like there's a couple of problems, Love your neighbour as you love yourself. Some people don't love themselves.
But this is what I'm saying. That's the first testament. Love yourself, isn't it?
Yeah. But as you, or when I say don't love themselves, they might say they do, But
they love the external parts of
they
themselves.
don't even know what love is.
They don't even know what love is.
That's a problem, right? So
ask ChatGPT. It'll tell you.
but you know, they might not. So that's like a whole learning of itself. Like, what does that mean to like appreciate it? So and when it's not that you don't understand. They don't understand the dictionary definition of what it is. But if you've grown up,
the feeling, the emotion.
because if you've grown up and seen like love modeled, like I was doing some work recently, and we had a big debate on whether the word love should be involved in our marketing campaign or whatever.
Okay.
And it was not because it's not a good thing, but like someone might have seen, I don't know, God forbid, like abuse growing up and
the definition of that word could be misconstrued because of how they thought it. Yeah,
because
definitely.
they thought growing up that's what
love. Yeah,
and obviously it's not.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe a question of sorts, like how has it been for you, like that whole journey of self-discovery and growing to love yourself so you can love someone else, because right now you're responsible for quite a lot of people in a way that come to your training.
Absolutely.
Right? Because you might be training them to become property professionals, but from my observation of what I've seen on your channels and whatnot is you're also a mentor in more than one way to a lot of the people I've seen on there, right? I don't know what goes on behind closed doors. You probably sat with them and they've opened up to you about other stuff that's got nothing to do with property, or you know better than me, right? So the having compassion for that person is something you can only give if you've already given it to yourself.
That's right.
So like, what's that been like for you? Like maybe you've got to a stage where, I don't know, your first property, second property, third. You're a new person now. Maybe you're sitting back and thinking of the people that weren't so nice to you when you were going through that transition.
Sure,
now you're here. I don't know. How's it been? Like,
I think that I have been hand carved by God to be a mentor and trainer, and because I really have got patience and I really do care about their success, and I really do navigate them emotionally, because it's not just about, you can throw somebody education, but if they haven't got the emotional backing to kind of the mindset building behind it to like, okay, this is what I'm expecting, then that's going to be challenging. But in terms of love is not just a feeling, it's an action.
Right.
And it's about taking responsibility over your life. It's about, checking yourself. You know what I mean? Like I've had to really, really check myself in in my life. And yes, people hurt you, but hurt people. It's not their fault for hurting you. They're just going through their own insecurity and they're inflicting that on you. And then everybody's wounds kind of injure each other, I would say I kind of pull back a lot from like an emotional life. I'm a businesswoman, so I don't live my life based on my emotions. I build my life based on discipline, based on what's the right thing to do to push this forward. Why am I doing it? I'm doing it because I want to inspire other people to do the same. I think that in life, people got way too much time on their hands. They're thinking way too much about how they're feeling, how they're thinking, this, that, and the other. And actually, a lot of the time I tell people, suck it up and move on. You know what I mean? Not for everything. Some people need to go to therapy. Some people need to have those conversations with, professionals, definitely, or, reflect on some of the pains that they've been going through. But one thing I have learned, and my students really prove that to me, nothing is in there. It's a Pandora's box. You keep on going into your wounds and searching and trying to set up all these boundaries and be like, and trying to heal all these wounds. You're never going to get out. Just get out, get over it and keep moving, right? Keep moving forward. There's no way of just going into, these emotions and rectifying it. It will come up naturally as you process. So some of my past traumas, they're still unfolding to me now, but I'm not sitting there just thinking about my traumas. I'm out there saying, okay, how can I build a £10 million portfolio? How can I build a £10 million training business?
Yeah.
How can I scale my social media to a new level? How can I create interior design products, right? How can I do these things? I do not have time to think about the issues in my own life. And I don't have time to sit there and dwell on anybody else's issues. But what I am doing is I'm setting up a life where if I go to Congo and I see 50 children on the street, I can put together an adoption center and they will be safe.
Yeah.
I can go to Mozambique and build a school or build a hospital. I can go to Kenya and build a social housing for the children, the young children coming out of orphanages, the teenagers. I can't do that if I'm sitting there dwelling on my past, and I can't do it if I'm sitting there dwelling on other people's past. Nobody's got time there. Right now, the whole world is on fire. We need more people that are going to say, I'm going to get up and take responsibility over my life, over the space that I have, and I'm going to make this world better. That is what we're looking for. Yeah. Let's make this world a better place, and it starts with you. Loving yourself is not easy at first, because you're still seeking validation from other people. You're constantly wanting other people to reassure you, but they never can. Mm-hmm. They never can. Nobody can give you the love that you look for. So at first you're going to feel lonely, and at first it's going to feel like a void. You're going to feel lonely. You're going to feel like a void. It's going to feel like you're alone, and it's going to feel sad. And then little by little, you start filling it up with yourself. I remember once I went to a seminar, there was 500 people in the room. Okay. And, I somebody looked at me, and then when I turned around, they didn't look at me again. And then, you get that feeling of like, oh, did they not like me? That kind of feeling. Right, okay. And then I sat there and I realized I'm with myself, man. I just held my own arm. I just stroked my own arm. And don't worry, girl, you're good. Like, it's cool. I'm my own best friend. And that's a beautiful feeling, because you can't be shaken, because you're not dependent on somebody else. You're dependent on that life force within you. So the best practice I would say is look yourself in the mirror and tell yourself you love yourself. Say, I love you. You're allowed to do that. When you go to bed, say, I love you. Give yourself a hug, man. Be your own best friend. And when you're like that, you're a better person. You're a better friend. You're a better mentor. You're a better leader, because you actually like yourself. And I've seen my students overcome great depressions, regardless of financial freedom, because they all get financial free. Mm-hmm. They all buy houses, right?
So let's talk about that. Yeah. So we'll on that topic. Yeah. There's a few things you said in there, even about you going to that seminar and you finding your way. So let's say I'm someone who's watching this right now, and I'm in a position where I've worked, I've saved a bit, and I'm looking to move forward like you did during lockdown and find a way to kind of chart forward, so to speak. Yeah? And I'm looking at property. Yeah? Maybe I've saved up 5k or somewhere thereabouts. I've heard that deposit on the house is 40, 50k. Yeah? I want to buy in London. What would you do what would you say to that person that's looking to get started and has around 5-6k to get their hands dirty?
Absolutely. Yeah. The best thing you could ever do is invest in your education.
Right.
That's number one. Because yes, you can get in a car and you can drive the car. Mm-hmm. But if you haven't had the theory test, you're going to jump the light because you don't know the rules of the road.
Sure.
Right? And if you haven't got an instructor, you're going to mash up the car, maybe even mash up yourself. Mm-hmm. Right? So yes, in theory, everybody can drive a car, figure it out, right? But doing the theory tests and having the instructor is going to allow for you to actually get there safely. Yeah. So the first thing I would do is I would find myself a mentor. I would educate myself. I would learn the skills. These are all learnable skills. You learn it, you download it, you've got it for the rest of your life. Property is an international strategy. I've got houses in Nigeria, Lekki Phase 1. I've got houses in Brazil. I've got houses, I'm about to buy something in Jamaica. I want houses all around the world. I'm probably going to land something in Dubai. It's an international strategy. It's a global strategy. So once you learn it, you're completely free to do whatever you want. Now, the beautiful thing about property is that there is a direct road to success, right? Even if you've got no money, you can become successful in property. Why? Because you can deal source. Now, if you master deal sourcing, which is when you package a deal and you sell it to somebody if let's say someone really wanted a property deal, you can package that property deal and you can sell it to someone. That person's going to give you £3,000 for that one deal.
Okay. So
and I've got 19-year-olds making 9 bags. I've got 24-year-olds making 20. One of my students, Valentina, shout out to Valentina, right? Shout out to Valentina. Oh. She's about to sell me a 10-bedroom serviced accommodation in Hammersmith. That's going to make me £35,000 a month.
Okay.
Do you understand? And she's made £28,000. She's only been with me for 4 weeks, right? Okay. So you can make money and then buy houses. Now, with wealth creators is about asset acquisition. So yes, we teach you all the strategies, but we're not teaching you the strategies just to be a rent-to-renter and just to be a deal sourcer. We're teaching you all the strategies so that you can acquire assets, because we're all about asset acquisition.
Right, brilliant. So, all right, and so I've got 5K, I've invested in my education, I've become a deal sourcer. After the fact that deal's gone well, I've netted the 3K. What do I do next? So
what I would do, if you wanted to have an actual road to it, I would say sell free deals, because once you understand how to sell free deals, you become a professional. Everybody becomes a professional after 3 deals, right? You've convinced a plethora of people to actually give you money in exchange for a deal. That means 2 things. You're good at negotiating and closing a client. And the second thing is you're good at finding deals, right? So now you've mastered that. Now go ahead and buy your own deal. So take that £9,000, go and buy your own deal. Now, if you get a rent to HMO, well, you heard the principles earlier on. You're renting a house off a landlord for $1,500, but you're subletting it for £3,000. Now, here's the thing. If you're paying the landlord 1 month's rent, $1,500, 1 month's deposit, $1,500, you've spent £3,000. Yeah. But when you rent it out, you're renting it out for £3,000, 1 month's rent, £3,000, 1 month's deposit. So you put £3,000 in and you got £6,000 back straight away.
Right.
I've got an 18-bedroom HMO that I rented out in 5 days.
Okay.
I've got 10-bedroom HMOs that I've rented out within 24 hours. If you've got 6 rooms, you should be doing 6 rooms in half a day. Boom. You've got your money back. Now, go and do that a few times. By the time you do that 2 or 3 times, you're completely financially free, if that's what you want. But I still don't tell you to quit your job. Keep your job, right? Save your money. Never eat your eggs, right? Never eat your eggs. Each house is like its own mother goose, laying golden eggs. Right. Don't eat your eggs. Put them in an incubator. Let them grow. Right. So what we want is you to understand how to find, assess deals and negotiate them through deal sourcing, but then how to manage HMOs, because deal sourcing is the foundation to raising private finance.
Okay.
And HMO is the foundations to BRR. Service accommodation, that's the hotel industry.
Okay, and for those that don't know what BRR is,
buy, refurbish, refinance, right?
Yeah, cool.
Like homes under the hammer, right? You go, you buy a house, you refurbish it, you refinance it,
cool,
right?
Yeah.
So you wanna, I made money out of nothing. I make money out of nothing.
You got education as well, all right?
I got the education, right? I learned the skills. And then I made the money out of thin air. And once you understand how to do that, because money is not defined by hours. Money is defined by ideas.
Right. So my next point. If people want to get more ideas, specifically in a property space, right? And maybe they want to participate or even become a student at one of your events, what's the best way to go about getting access? I know these events are exclusive. I know they're not always available. You're busy doing other things. So if And also, what I do like about your events is that even though we've got social media and everything's online, people do get to sometimes meet you
in person.
Right? So, if I wanted to get involved, where could I find out more about these like live events?
Absolutely. So we do them in the Cumberland Hotel in Marble Arch, typically in London, and we if you want to book or reserve your seat, you can just go to thewealthcreators.co.uk. And it's going to give you a drop box of our next available dates. And you can click it and you can come. We are still doing in person. I know everybody's just like webinar. I feel like, there's nothing more amazing than meeting people and truly navigating them and getting, being in a classroom and really learning. So it's one of my favorite things. But my favorite things is to do at the event is after the event, I typically sit down with the clients one-to-one and give them some free advice where they can navigate themselves. And it's just like a really great day where you can come learn everything, but then also be supported and also be navigated to your next step. And it's so great because it's only £1. And the reason why it's £1 is because it's just the reservation fee. It's typically free. And we do that because we want people to get their toe in the water. I think there's so many people just capitalizing off of people's ignorance. And actually, no, come, learn, see. And if you want me as your mentor, then that's available to you as well.
Okay, cool, brilliant. Well, Jael, thank you.
You're welcome.
Being on. This is like our inaugural episode, right?
Let's go.
So thank you for being on a pod with us, guys. All the information for Jael will be available in the description or the link beneath this episode. Also, if I want to follow you on socials, where can I find you?
Jael Spooner on every platform. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn.
And that Jael is Jael.
Jael Spooner.
All right, cool, brilliant. Yes, thank you so much, guys. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Please go and follow, like, share, subscribe. You know all that good stuff, and we'll see you in the next one. All right, you take care. Cool.
Nice.
Cool. All right.
Yeah, let's go. How did you like that?
First one down. Yeah, it was good. Definitely. We finished on time as well.
Did we? What time is it?
No, it's 7:41. So your next one is like, I think maybe I heard someone
It's
outside.
in 4 minutes.
Yeah.